Hey Facebook, I'm going to give you a second to update. And in the meantime, I'm going to tell Facebook that's listening that I don't like your new framework that you guys are using. You took away a lot of things that I use on the back end, especially wishing people happy birthdays on video in Messenger. I can't do it anymore. So apologize if you haven't been getting those from me. But I want to give this a second to populate. If you wouldn't mind sharing it with your friends. If you like it, hit the like button, comment. Please be interactive and boost my engagement so more people can see this kind of stuff. I appreciate you watching from the start, and bear with me, I'll keep this one a little shorter than some of the others. So some of the things I want to talk about in the market are not just housing market related, it's more overall economy related. And the first one I want to talk about, which I'll post these infographics down in the comments when we get in here, but the first one I want to talk about is how we've seen a V-shape in spending. This first one, you can kind of see it, but the glare, woo, this one here. There's been a V-shape in general consumer spending, and what happened was is you can kind of see how, of course, everything got shut down. We couldn't go spend the funds like we wanted to, and so we kind of all just shut down our spending. But that didn't happen in housing, because housing was one of the things that we were allowed to still go show, still be active. Everybody was sitting at home and they're thinking about their house, and we were still allowed to spend money and do what we wanted to with our money. And so that's where a lot of people were allowed to spend it, was on houses. And so that's where they chose to spend it, was on houses. So a lot of that money that wasn't being spent in consumer spending ended up going into the housing market, just because that was still allowed, especially in Kansas. We were really allowed to continue to operate like we were before. And so that's where you see a lot of our spending that was being spent on consumer goods and everything else going to housing. And that's kind of what happened. Sorry about that. Had a phone call coming in. The second thing I was wanting to show is this graph down here at the bottom. You can kind of see it. Again, I'll put the pictures in the comments here shortly. But what we saw is, we saw a couple things with this. Our inventory is down like crazy. So existing homes, ones that aren't new builds, the inventory is down by 39% from year over year compared to last year. Even though last year was a good year and there was no pandemic then, even with the pandemic of this year, we're still seeing existing home inventory down by 39%. We're seeing new homes down by 33%. But the flip side of that, and there's a direct correlation here, is that the amount of new home sales has risen by 43% from last year to this year. So despite all this pandemic and everything, we've still seen new home sales increase by 43%. Existing home sales have increased, but not by as much, only by 10.5%. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a shortage of inventory. One, we don't have enough houses in existing homes to sell. Two, builders can't build houses fast enough. And that's part of the problem, is why we have such low listing inventory levels. It's where you don't see a lot of listings. You don't get a lot of time to, search around on the internet. It's kind of like you have to predefine what you're looking for. And as soon as it comes up, you got to be on it. So you got to have your financing lined up. You got to have your house ready to sell. You got to be with a realtor ahead of time. You got to do a lot more proactive work to get into a house. You can't wait for the right house to come up and then hope you get it, because that just won't happen. Let's see. Anything else on that to cover? Oh, and part of the reason that builders can't build houses fast enough is because there's a big material shortage. When everything shut down, a lot of the mills had to shut down, so there was a big shortage in lumber and other building products that not only delayed production, it also tripled the cost of lumber and tripled the cost of what it took to build a house. So obviously that's going to slow things down or cause problems with new builds. The other thing we saw is that total listings year over year have been down total by 36%, which is a pretty big deal on all that. And honestly, I don't see that ever changing, just because of our faster speed of life that we live in today. Not just in real estate, but also just in general. People talk faster, we communicate faster, we move faster, we do things faster. And so with our speed of communication and processes with everything, you're going to see the speed of time on market and the speed of real estate continue to be fast from here on out. I don't see that ever changing, regardless of this pandemic or anything going on. It's just that we move faster these days, which is a good thing, because it's less time, less hassle. The more movement in the economy, the better of everything going on. So that I see as a good thing. It's just that you're not going to be able to, browse around at a lot of listings anymore. You're kind of going to have to watch the market, watch them go pending, find out what you want, to get, and then when the right one comes up, snag it. And I don't see that ever changing about real estate going forward. One good thing that a lot of people ask me about is the number of mortgages and forbearance. And like, oh, do you think there's going to be a bunch of foreclosures, or there's going to be a bunch of distressed properties for sale? Long story short, no. The number of mortgages and active forbearance is actually decreasing. And quite honestly, most of those homeowners have so much equity that the lenders are just going to refinance the loan or work out some kind of creative solution to where you won't see these go into foreclosure. And the truth is, you don't want them to go into foreclosure. If you have a bunch of foreclosures, 2008, 2010 crisis was not that long ago, and you guys either remember or know of what happened in that situation, and it screws everyone over. So you really should not be waiting and hoping for the economy to tank like that, because everybody loses a lot of money if that's the case, and you really don't want to see that happen. And I don't see it going to happen just because not as many people lost their jobs as they thought they would. A lot of things got restructured with people's jobs, and it changed a lot, but people didn't necessarily lose their jobs, or they just changed jobs, because there's still plenty of opportunity for employment in this country. It's just a transfer of what you're doing for a job. So I think that has a lot to do with it, that there's no shortage of opportunity to get a job and to have employment. And as long as you're actively looking for it and you want to seek that out, you're going to get it. I think in order for somebody to go into forbearance and then foreclosure, you have to really try hard and really ignore things for a long time for that to happen. And so what I see happening is that'll be more of a trickle of foreclosures, if there are any, than a flood like people are expecting, especially with how much the regular retail housing market is doing. Comparatively, forbearances are going to be a trickle compared to the overwhelming amount of good things going on in the housing market. Pending home sales, I'm just going to show you one more graph right here of where you can see the exact V dip, where it goes down way far, but then it goes way higher than it's been in a long time, even from last year or anything like that. So it's kind of like it bounced down, but it bounced back even harder with everything going on. And that's why you've seen house prices continue to rise despite this pandemic, and you've seen a lot of people gain a lot of equity just by making their house payment on everything. And the biggest thing I want to end on with this is that I want you guys to look at the facts and nothing else. I know there's a lot of emotion and uncertainty in the market right now, but honestly, if you just look at this data, look at the facts, listen to reasonable, sane people like myself who aren't just trying to feed you a narrative or feed you a story to fit their personal objective. Somebody that's neutrally just looking at the data and tells you, here's what's going on in the market. Because the truth is, your house is more of like a savings account. It's not really an investment in my eyes. When you're only making 5 to 8% in appreciation on investment, that's a very conservative investment. It's very difficult to go wrong, really, when you're making that kind of investment. As long as the house is in good shape, is in a good neighborhood, in a good location, and it fits your lifestyle, and you don't plan to move from it in the next 5 to 10 years, which the average homeowner anymore moves every 7 years, is about the time frame they're looking at. It used to be every 3 to 4, now it's 7. So people are sticking in their houses a little longer than they were before. And I think if you really assess why you buy a house, it's not really from a financial standpoint. It's more so for the lifestyle that you have, and also all the memories and the love that you create in that house. Because if you think about some of your best family memories or childhood memories, or some of the best memories I've ever had, they're in a house. And a lot of times you associate that with the house. So really buying a house is more about that piece of your life, because life's not all about money. And your house is just a catalyst for you to have a really good life. So anyways, I appreciate watching. If you do like this, hit the like button, comment, share it. Let me know what your thoughts on it are. I appreciate watching as always. Hopefully this helped you learn a little bit more how real estate's really working today and what's going on in the market. Talk to you later.